Etapu, Assalamu alaikum, Namaste, Harun Nefer. This is Kasankma Keparu with another broadcast for you. And in this broadcast, we're going to talk about the new technique to shift your reality. But before I do that, I want you to hit the like button on this video. Don't forget, very important. If this is your first time to my channel, welcome. Hit the subscribe button to get notifications on when I go live or when I upload recorded videos. And if you're not already a member, please consider supporting us on Patreon. You can do so for as little as $1 or $5 per month. You get exclusive videos, and these instructional videos, which will take you further into the spiritual awakening. You'll get videos on performing a ritual, breathing techniques, mantras, how to use the oracles, and so much more. So click the link in the bottom. And lastly, please share this video with family, friends, strangers, whoever, so that we can get this revolution started and free the planet. So I want to talk a little bit with you about a new technique, and this is something I was using and I was saying it's pretty effective. I should share this with all of the Magi's on YouTube. And one of the things that I'd like to do is always just test everything in my magical arsenal, whether it's stuff that I've used for years or new stuff that I come across. I want to make sure it's effective because, as I've always said, magic is not a one size fits all. We all have different belief systems. We have different lines of demarcation, meaning that we have our standards. And sometimes a magical application does not fit within the confines of those parameters that we have set up for ourselves. And those parameters can come from conditioning, social engineering, how you were brought up by your family, or even past life experiences. So please do keep that in mind. Because when you're searching for things such as magical herbs, amulets, crystals, and even spells, some of that may not work for you. And another thing to keep in mind, which is very important, is that all of these items in your arsenal are just permission slips, because really the power is within yourself, and those objects are there to help instill faith and belief in your own magical ability. The great Chinese oracle, the I-ching, tells us to be careful not to give away or place our magic tortoise with someone else. And what that means is the magic tortoise is your power within your magic. And if you rely on somebody else, the exterior world, or a magical tool, in the end, you will pay the price because you will have failed to learn who you really are, which is a divine being with the same powers as God, because you are God. So please keep that in mind when you're working with your magical instruments, because you don't want to place all your faith and hopes in that, because when push comes to shove and you're someplace, you may not have your magic wand, you may not have your crystals, you may not have your herbs, you may not have that mantra, you can't remember that mantra. What do you do then? You see what I'm saying? So please keep that in mind, that, and this is part of why when I teach, I really try to teach from the reliance on self, turning inward to the divine self, so that you can use your magical power. And I try to place less reliance on objects, though those are very important. And I think that every magi in their own private practice should be using those magical instruments. You should have a wand, you should have an altar or a shrine. You should be using herbs. You should be using crystals. You should be using incense. That's very important. But again, you should also understand the power of reality shifting. How do you shift to a new reality and not need all of those instruments? Okay. And the benefit that you will walk away on relying from self is that you become more powerful of a person. Do you understand what I'm saying? You become more powerful. I am in many, many ways a better version of myself now than I was many years ago. We talk about becoming a greatest version. And I think this is the path that we are taking to do that. When I got into studying the esoteric, and I had met my mate, and she was practicing witch and Wiccan, she introduced me to that world. I noticed that many people in that field in different covenants was still inflicted by everyday demons. And what do I mean by that? Well, some of them were chain smokers. Some of them had drug issues. Some of them had depression. They went through serious depression. Others were very much into Satanism. So I was very troubled by that because realistically, when you are practicing a spiritual path, be it you're a witch, a babalao, a Kemetic priest, or whatever, you should be, your highest aspiration should be God. And there is no room for addiction to nicotine, overeating, being overweight. Many of the people in the Wiccan society I saw were very overweight, drug addicted, you know, swearing, profanity, lots of profanity. Um, and some of them just looked disheveled. Their health wasn't good. So I'm saying to you is the one thing that this spiritual practice that I teach is no one's saying it's perfect, but what we do is to aspire to be divine, godlike. And as I said before, there is no room for any of those seven deadly sins. You know what I mean? But I still think Wicca is a great religion, but still has a long way to go because I don't see how you can practice that and still be addicted to drugs and alcohol and chain smoking. And we only need to look at some of the high practitioners of that, like Aleister Crowley, who was himself beset with all kinds of negative habits. So we have to make sure we're living a clean life. Now, it can be very challenging. For example, I try to be the best vegan I can, but sometimes you're living in a food desert. That's not your fault, but you do the best you can. You understand? But if it's within your power to do so, try to live a ma'at life, a just and righteous life. Now, that does not mean that no evil will fall upon you, because even the I-ching says, the great oracle, the Chinese oracle says that bad things happen to good people. And it may be within your destiny to experience that because God wants to experience it. What I want you to understand, though, is how you handle that. That's very important. Your emotional state of mind in going through the challenges. Listen, I'm not here to sell you a lie. I'm not here to sell you snake oil. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that if you practice the Osirian or the Asara set religion, your life is going to be full of golden unicorns and butterflies and happiness. I'm not here to tell you that lie. But what I'm here to tell you is that it can be one of peace, because we know that God made a promise, that God said that no matter what the greatest obstructions are, I have built within you a safety mechanism to keep you from experiencing the pain of living on this Geb world, meaning he instilled within you, amen, a peace that is so strong that nothing can disturb it. And that whenever you're going through pain and suffering, you can always tune inward to that amen state, that peaceful state, so that you will experience the turbulence of this third dimensional plane, or we should say fourth dimensional plane. But if you're looking for me to make a promise to you that it's all going to be great and that you will have a yacht and you will have a big house and you'll have all this, then you need to go see your pimp pastors and their mega churches, because they're the ones that are making that promise. And of course, they have a 100% failure rate in that area. Okay. No one that has followed those ministers has ever come to the same wealth as those ministers have. And it's funny that the masses of their congregation, many live in poverty or middle class lives, while the minister himself lives a very lavish lifestyle. So, and you know from the teachings of the Asari Set religion that you have an animal spirit, and an animal spirit within you we call Set. And Set comes in the form of an instinctual animal reaction. And what I mean by that is that you living on this planet must recognize and honor the fact that within you is an instinctive fight or flight mechanism, and it will kick in whenever needed, instinctual. And it is our goal as Osarians is to rise above the animal instinct. And we do so by practicing in meditations and hypnotherapy and affirmations and mantras so that we can calm the animal spirit within us so that the animal spirit doesn't rise up and control our actions. But you see, the pimp pastors, mega church millionaires, they pride themselves on not telling you the truth about your conditioning, about your makeup. And they make it seem just by accepting a savior, the animal spirit is gone. The animal is not going anywhere. In fact, it will fight tooth and nail to stay there. And this has been the story of Asar and a Set that our ancestors left us with. It is a story told in an analogy of how you could win the battle over Set. Set is the metaphor for the animal spirit within you. Just like originally the devil was a metaphor for those sins, seven deadly sins within you. But because we understand we're living in a Western society that is based upon left brain thinking, they can only think in a concrete manner. So they cannot see abstract notions as an animal spirit. So they have to actually crystallize that into an actual form or create a physical representation of it and then believe that it represents a physical entity or being. There is no devil. Do you understand? And another thing you should know is that these pastors and preachers, they go to school and they learn about the Bible, but they also learn trigger mechanisms to get you to tithe more, to get you to donate more. They know how to push certain buttons within you. Specifically, many of the Black churches know that their congregation is primarily made up of Black women, so they know how to appeal to those Black women, those single mothers. And they often do so by telling those women it's never your fault that you're in the situation that you're in, that you should blame the man who got you there. And then it goes further to lie and say God has something special in mind for you. Well, God needs to tell them because God is keeping a secret and hasn't told them yet that he has something special in mind for them. So beware of that. But again, I caution you, this is a cautionary tale, that I'm not blaming or poking fun at the Christian religion, because the religion of the witches and warlocks, the Wiccan, has similar issues. And even in the Cometian religion, when I went into priesthood, there were issues within that. So nothing is perfect. So let us understand that. But we do the best we can. Okay. Now, what I want to talk to you about is this new technique, and it is a radical change and departure from the traditional technique that I've been teaching, but it is highly effective. And if you practice this and if you apply this, you're going to see immediate results. So what am I saying to you? Well, we know traditionally in the past, we have been taught by those who practice the secret reality transurfing or the law of attraction, that if ever you want to shift to a new reality, one that's more conducive to your wishes, all one needs to do is to visualize the new outcome and empower that visualization with emotion and hold on to it as long as you can, and then watch it take shape and come to fruition. Even if you are a Godardian, or I should say, if you follow Neville Goddard, he practices the same thing. As a Christian, he believed that God is within you and that your imagination was God. And if you visualize the right outcome and hold on to that visualization with the emotion, it will come to being. But now I want to take you back a couple of steps, because one of the things I've always talked about that is a prerequisite to making this work, which the law of attraction, the secret reality transurfing, leaves out. And it's very important. And it was only of this understanding and accepting of this one fundamental truth that allowed me to transcend and to be able to shift realities at will. And that is this core belief system that's important. Write this down. Before you can perform miracles in your life, you must first you must first understand this core principle, and it must be a core principle that is that goes to the deepest part of your being. That core principle is this: everything is Maya, it is all an illusion. You cannot change reality. You cannot shift to a parallel reality if you believe the reality that you currently exist in is real. That that is a contradiction. And the subconscious mind will try to reconcile that. So, in other words, the subconscious mind will believe that it's a reality, that you, whatever you see before you, but then your left brain is accepting the notion that you can change reality and shift to new reality. So the two will clash. So your subconscious mind will try to reconcile that. And the way it will do it is that which has the most strongest dominant thought process or emotion will win out. And more than likely, that will be the notion of you believing that this reality is real because you have been trained and taught that the majority of your life. But you must now learn to purge yourself of that thought because it is all an illusion. And my beloved, when I accepted that one truth, when I really accepted that one truth, I was sad because I came to the realization that I was alone, that no one was here but myself, which was true because I was creating all that was before me. I was creating the people, the places, the things. It was all a manifestation of my power. But then I thought back to saying, look how powerful I am to create all of this. And then I was a little less sad. But you must accept that prerequisite at the core of your being, or if not, you cannot perform the miracles that I'm teaching you. You cannot. It won't work. Now, here's the new technique. It comes into a twofold process. And this is going to be a short video because it's going to be a powerful video. The new technique has you accepting another core belief that is just as powerful as that first belief, but the two go hand in hand, and you must have the two. My beloved, I counsel people on a daily basis, and I give them these techniques, and they come back to me and they say, Kasank, why are you so pretty? I said, I don't know. It's just how I am. Well, anyway, I digress. But they come to me and they say, Kasank, it didn't work. And I become puzzled and I become perplexed because it works for me and it works for some of my other clients, but it doesn't work for certain individuals. And I could not understand why. And then when I would start to take an audit of my clients, I began to realize a central theme. And then I had to revise my technique to perfect it. And I've done that. I have made it now to where it's awesome. It's all that and a bag of chips. You see, this is where we separate ourselves. And I'm building this up to suspense, by the way, so you know. This is where we separate ourselves from the religion of the Christians, the religions of the Muslims, the religion of the Catholics. Because you see, the Assyrian religion allows you, let me say that again, allows you to upgrade it, to improve upon it. But those other traditional Western religions, it is sacrilegious to change them. But the Christian religion says it is the unadulterated word of God. But then, how come God's not speaking to us anymore? How come God's not telling us his new commandments? Why did he talk to the biblical characters in ancient times, but not to us now? So, my beloveds, here is the second part. that will make this technique work for you and will be awesome. The first part I said, you must accept the fact that all of this is an illusion to the core of your being. Now, merely you reciting that to yourself, you're only talking to the left brain. The left brain does not control behavior. It does not control emotion. It does not control belief. For you to accept this as a core belief, you would have to say it 1,000 times to put the left brain to sleep and allow the right brain to open up and receive the information. That's one technique. Or you could meditate and recite this affirmation during meditation. Everything's an illusion. It's all Maya. Everything is illusion. It's all Maya. Everything's illusion. It's all Maya. Everything's illusion. It's all Maya. That car is illusion. That desk is an illusion. That lamp is an illusion. That TV is an illusion. That sexy girl standing there is an illusion, but she's a good illusion. That plug is an illusion. I am not kidding. That is how you have to look at things. So the beautiful part about this is it presupposes other truisms or affirmation. Let me say it again. It presupposes other truisms and affirmations, meaning hidden within that core belief are additional core beliefs to back that up. And that's how the mind works. Isn't that beautiful? Because when you say it's all an illusion, it's Maya. It's all an illusion. It's Maya. You're training yourself to not only accept the fact that it's an illusion, but you're also training yourself to deal with your human emotions. Therefore, if I am walking in a department store and I see 3 or 4 cute girls walking my way, and I kind of step up my stride, but slip and fall and make a fool of myself, I can get up and brush myself off knowing those cute girls are an illusion and not real. I do not need to feel embarrassed because they're not real. How can I be embarrassed at the presence of something that does not exist? Ah, do you see? The one becomes the two. That one core belief now handles something else that you need to deal with. That is your everyday mundane emotional hangups. When you love chocolate cake and you know that eating that is not good for you because it has eggs and milk in there, very bad things for you. You can tell yourself that chocolate cake does not exist in illusion and that my compulsion or addiction to chocolate cake is an illusion. So you're presupposing all that. See, your brain, like it or not, does work through logic. It does work through the left brain, and we must honor the left brain. Just because the society is polarizing left brain thinking does not mean that the left brain does not have its use. Oh, Nikki, I hope you're not talking to me, but you don't exist. So be gone. All right. Now, let's get to the technique. The next affirmation that will put this on hyperdrive so you can shift to new reality. The next core belief that you must accept. Oops. Cut to drum roll, please. Building up of suspension. I think I'm going to give you another technique too. Let's do 2 techniques. All right. I was going to save this one for another video, but I'm gonna give it to you because I like Nikki so much. I think she's so cool. All right. Let me hold on. Let me hold on 1 second. Okay. I'm not going to give you those 2 techniques because Michael Osir, Michael Asar, Michael Osiris, Michael Osir. I'm just going to different pronunciations. is today our master teacher, because his comment here is so profound. I want to touch upon it. Michael says, we feel limitless, like when we wake up and control our dreams once we realize we're dreaming. Thank you, Michael, for that. Dwau. Very important thing he said there. Do you realize the great analogy that's going on here? If you want to understand what's going on in your dreams, look at life and look at how life really works. You see, you as a being, a divine being, are projecting outward into this fourth dimensional plane all that you see. You are the great creator of this, because reality does not exist apart from the observer. Am I not correct? So therefore, you are having what? A subjective experience. Now, when one goes to sleep and dreams, what is happening there? You, the dreamer, is creating the dream. And you are having what? A subjective experience. Do you see? The two are very, very similar. So what is transpiring in your dreams is a key indicator of what is going on in this fourth dimensional realm we call life, we call reality. The dream is a key to understanding what's really going on. It's a reflection of what's going on. You see, the dream is half of the whole. The whole is the waking state and the dream state. One mirrors the other. In the waking state, there is a physical, so-called physical, concrete representation of things. In the dream state, there is a metaphysical representation of things. In the waking state, there is a literal interpretation of things, meaning you're projecting and creating literal interpretations, meaning a lamp, a socket. In the dream state, there is not a literal, a non-literal, or a metaphoric representation of things. They are complements. They complement one each other. Okay. So thank you, Michael Osea, for bringing that up. And I wanted to touch on that because you really brought up a good point there to show contrast. This is why it's very important to interpret your dreams and pay attention to your dreams. You see? Now we're going to go on to the second technique, three techniques in total. First technique is understanding that everything is Maya. It's an illusion. Nothing is real. And the only way that you can really truly believe that is to go into hypnosis and to program yourself or do deep meditation or recite that mantra 1,000 times. The second technique, and this is just as important, and this allowed me to give this to my clients and them to have a radical change in their life. The second technique is, I think I forgot it. What's the second technique? Oh my goodness, I forgot it. The second technique is you must accept that anything can happen. All possibilities are possible in your reality, in this space-time continuum. Again, let me say it again. You must accept the core of your being that anything is possible. You see, we're caught up so much in life that we think, well, so-and-so hit lottery, but that could never happen to me. So-and-so married Kassank. I could never marry a guy so handsome and smart as him. You know, false belief systems all the time. My father told me I was no good and I never amount to anything. I could never be smart. I could never be brilliant. I could never pass my math class. You know, I could never write a book. No, all things are possible. And hidden within that affirmation is another belief system, which tells you that you are a powerful being, that you create your reality. It presupposes that you create your reality. So not only you must accept the idea of, number one, that everything is Maya, an illusion, but you must also accept the idea that anything can happen. And I sincerely mean that. And we're going to go on to another thing, and I think Michael, the master teacher, had given us this insight on a previous broadcast. We must understand that if you visualize something and you empower it with a belief, it will come to fruition. However, we also must understand that it may not play out in the exact way that you visualize it. And you must give your spirit the leeway to do so, because the spirit will manifest it in the way that's most convenient for you. And we must be careful not to put too many parameters around that. Allow it, give it free rein to manifest it through the path of least resistance. Yes, you can hold in your mind a visualization of how you want to play out, but give it some leeway. Understand that it may not play out in that exact way. And I cannot tell you how many times that I have manifested something and it not work out the way I intentioned or I willed it to work out, but it still worked out for my benefit. Number one, everything is Maya, everything's an illusion. Number two, anything is possible in the space-time continuum. Anything is possible. When you focus on those two together, it doesn't tie up the left and the right brain trying to figure out, how do I reconcile all of this? It's too confusing. You give yourself the secret formula to making it work. Now, hold on one second. I'm going to switch mics here.
Awesome. Okay, great. Let's do it this way. All right. Now, please hit like if you like the information I'm presenting here. And if you get an opportunity, please donate to the channel. Your donation would be greatly appreciated. Now, let's move on to the third technique. Now, we've already talked about that all things are possible and that you should not limit yourself. The next thing is what I tend to do, what I find that works for me, and I think this will work well for you, is that when I visualize a certain way I want something to unfold, I visualize a contingency plan. And so what I mean, I usually come up with at least 3 more scenarios in a way that it could come to fruition that would work out just as well. So I don't limit it to one specific visualization, but I have a total of 4 in mind. 4 is Ma'at's number, as she has the 4th sphere on the tree of life, truth. So when I'm having those 4 different visualizations, it serves 2 purposes. It gives the spirit, the power within you, leeway to manifesting it through the path of least resistance. The other thing it does is it focuses your mind on the 4 avenues of opportunity so that your mind doesn't have an opportunity to start thinking about the negative consequences or a negative outcome, because we tend to focus on negativity too much. And remember, what you focus on, you bring to reality if your emotion that is attached to it is strong enough. So in order for you not to focus on a possible negative outcome, replay the 4 scenarios in your mind of 4 ways it could come to fruition. And that'll keep the mind focused on the positive outcome. And then let it go and see the magic work. See it manifest for you. And I have found this to be very, very effective. So let me explain something to you, my beloveds. I started my career early on as a project manager. And a project manager is someone with a very ma'at sense of being, meaning they look at the big picture. Now, when I got into magic, I was having a lot of problems with magic in focusing on the outcome, in focusing on a positive outcome. And I couldn't understand why. And then I realized that it was my training as a project manager that was creating the problem. How so? Project managers are trained to think of the worst case scenario and to come up with a contingency plan for those worst case scenarios. So as a project manager, I was looking at putting together, well, I would put together what we call my project plan, and I would look at all the things like what we would call as a critical path that could hamper our progress. And I was coming up with scenarios to deal with them. But that's focusing on negative outcomes. And when I was practicing my magic, I was always thinking about the negative outcome, and I had to let that go. And knew that I was leveraging that technique from being a project manager. And I had to adapt a new technique. So this is the new technique that I adapted, looking at 4 positive ways of it unfolding and focusing on those ways and embellishing them. Remember, those 4 different scenarios, you should be really embellishing them. You should be looking at them, trying to see it in Technicolor, 3D, trying to smell it, engaging your senses. Play out those scenarios. And in doing that, you occupy the mind with the outcome. And then the mind will then manifest it. And the one thing, taking a step back to that technique number 2 that I really learned, and I'm going to end with this, that when I started to study quantum mechanics, the first thing that they told me in quantum mechanics was that there are 2 things you need to be aware of: the probability and the possibility. All things are possible for what quantum mechanics tells us, but we need to look at the probability of it occurring. So when you tell yourself that all things are possible, that is actually a truism. It is validated by science itself. All things are possible. What is the likelihood of it happening within this space-time continuum is another story. And you don't need to be concerned about that right now. But all things are possible. Keep that in mind. And as I started out with this broadcast, I'm going to end with this, that I teach techniques that do not require tools, or as we say, permission slips. You don't need the crystals, the magic wands, the herbs. But if you choose to apply those to these teachings, you will supercharge it, and you can, but you don't have to. It's up to you. But I challenge you to implement these 3 techniques that I have given you today and watch how your life can improve. So let me bring up one more, because I think Michael hit on something. Because the matrix of positive visions, Michael, is you filtering out the negative outcomes. And then when you filter out the negative outcomes, you build a picture of a world or a reality of your making. This goes back to my technique of going dark. You don't consider the negative possibilities or the negative outcomes. You only focus on the positive outcomes that could likely happen. And you stay on that. And then when you stay in that, then the spirit, which is a divine intelligence, then will have you shift to a different space-time continuum, a different reality. And whatever reality it shifts to, it's going to be a positive net outcome for you. Now I'm going to take this further and give you a 4th affirmation or truism that's really going to make this like an atomic bomb. You see, life plays games with us and life tricks us. We must not fall victim to that. In other words, you may be visualizing a positive outcome. You may be visualizing 4 positive outcomes. And then suddenly a negative outcome manifests that catches you off guard. And you're like, well, how is that possible? I was visualizing 4 positive outcomes. How did this negative thing happen? If you've been following my videos or my teachings, then you will know what you need to do when that happens. You see, there is a term we use for that. We call it time dilation, meaning that there is a delay between what you visualize and how it manifests in this space-time continuum. Now, when you're focusing on the 4 visualizations of the positive outcome and they don't manifest, in fact, the exact opposite manifests, something negative, do not be discouraged from that. That's merely an indication that there is a time delay. And this takes us to the other truism, and I'll leave you with this, that I always, always adapt. Because you see, we're so left-brained to our detriment. We think so much through the Cartesian logic, the one-to-one correlation. I visualize positive outcome, negative outcome comes. Why? You must understand this and adapt this as your truism. No matter what negative thing happens, it will always transition to my benefit. Say it again. No matter what negative thing happens, it'll always work out in the end to my benefit. You see, when that negative thing happens, it just may be the stepping stone to get you to the positive thing that you were visualizing it. But you're so emotionally wrapped up that when a negative thing happened and you're so focused on the Cartesian logic, the one-to-one correlation, that you don't see that the universe had to manifest that negative thing to get you to the good thing. Do you know what I mean? Keep that in mind. That is super, super important. That just because a negative thing happened, that doesn't mean that the end all and be all is there. There she wrote. The fat lady sings. It doesn't mean that. It means that the universe has to have that happen to get you to the good thing. And it also is a time delay. I used to do this or apply this technique when I was looking for contracts for my company because I had a small startup company. And there are 2 things in a startup company, like when you're working with a bigger company, you want to be known as the AOR, the agency of record, meaning you have a long-term contract with the company and you're exclusively doing business with that company. Well, I would often get contracts that would only contract me for 30 days. And there's a lot of problems with a 30-day contract. And I would get so upset. I remember one time I was bidding for this one contract and they said, we like you, we want to put you on a 30-day contract. And I got upset because I had did all this work and meditation. And my mate comes up to me and she says, you are not even following your own teachings, Kasank. Remember, though this may seem like a negative thing, it'll lead you to a positive thing. So I took the 30-day contract, and after the 30-day contract, I counted to the 29th day, they said, we want to extend your contract indefinitely. We want to make you the AOR. I was like, whoa, awesome. But see, in my limited mind, I'm seeing the negative thing of just the limited 30-day contract. I didn't realize that the spirit to get me to where I wanted to go or needed to go, it had to get me to accept that 30-day contract, would lead to the indefinite contract. See, when you're doing your magical work, you have to keep the faith. You have to be rest assured that it's working. And that even if a negative thing happens or apparently comes to fruition, then you have to tell yourself it is only a means to get me to where I need to go, and hold firmly to that notion. And that in and of itself is a practice in magic, because then you can turn around that negative situation. Do you understand what I'm saying? So make these affirmations or these truisms, however I want to call it, as part of your magical practice. I've given you 4. Incorporate these 4 and make them like your philosophy. Make it your affirmation, make it your truism. I actually, when I speak to friends and family members on a daily basis and something happens that's bad, I look at them and I actually say, hey, that means something's good is going to come out of this. Something very good is going to come out of this. And you say that to yourself when that bad thing happens, because you're training the mind to think in that way. See, when you train the mind and whenever a bad experience happens to say, oh, this is setting me up for something good, then your mind eventually will get to a point where it's going to be working on an autopilot. So when something bad happens, it's going to manifest something good for you, because you've trained it to think that way, and you've trained the spirit to manifest things that way. I train my spirit in this way because I've gone through in my life a lot of hardships, that when something difficult happens, I say, it's all right, I'm going to manifest something good out of this. I'm going to manifest something good. And then I relax, I'm at peace, because to a degree, I know my skill level when it comes to magic, and I know what I can do and what I can't do. So when something comes up, I say, that's not a big thing. I can handle this. I'm going to magically make it work out for me. But I don't want you to ever do what the Christians do. I'm going to put it in God's hands. Let God handle it. Don't do that. Don't ever say that. That is giving your magic tortoise away, as I said, from the great I-ching book. That means that you are relying on an external force to intervene on your behalf. And good luck with that. There's no cavalry. The cavalry is not coming. The magic is within you. And you recognize yourself as a divine being, as God, to manifest the wonders in your life, and to kick ass in life, and to be the cause of things in the world and not the effect. Do you hear me? You are God. You are powerful. You make it rain. This is Kasank Ma Keperu, son of Maat and Tahuti. My aunt is a beautiful goddess, Heteru. Until my next video, Amun Ra.